Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. Okay, guys, this is a tough one. We have Lozzie Hemming Torres on the podcast. See, I got it right. I got it right in the intro, too, or in the previous one before we start recording. Got it right now, so we got that out of the way. She's coming to us all the way from the UK. She's closer to the Brighton area, like she said. I mean, that's the reason I know it of, because I told her, I said, hey, is there any region that's close by that I would know of? So yeah, she's on here to share her health and fitness journey. Yeah, just talk all things health and fitness, and most importantly, she's our current guest. Lozzie, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I asked this question to every single person. For first off, what is the weather like today?
It is raining. Of course, I'm freezing. We're in the UK, so that's all we get.
I was gonna say, you're telling me in the UK it's cloudy and raining. I've never heard that story before. So I mean, it is snowing here as I'm talking to you, so it's nice to have, a little bit of the same-ish weather, so, it's a little bit of joint suffering, at least there. But before we depress everyone with our weather woes, why don't you just first off start us off, give us your backstory on what really inspired and motivated you to get in shape and what led to you deciding to become a bodybuilder?
Well, obviously I've got two children, and after my second one, I wanted to lose baby weight, and that's what made me want to start fitness, lifting weights, started to fall in love with it. And then my friend suggested, why don't you try out bodybuilding? Like, why don't you try out a competition? And so I thought, all right, okay, I'll give it a go. And yeah, it's gone from there, really.
So when you were getting started with all this, I mean, like you said, you weren't originally planning on doing bodybuilding. You were just planning on trying to get in shape. Was there a certain moment other than, like your friend recommending you, like maybe you should do bodybuilding, that you were just like, hey, this was not even close to what I originally envisioned in my goals, but it seems like something that I should do?
Well, when I was with my children's dad, who luckily this year I've divorced, thank the Lord. Um, I was in a very dark place because the relationship was very domestic violence. It wasn't very good, and I want to do something for me, and that's how I think it all started. I just because obviously I was just a mum then, and I wanted to do. I'm not just a mum; I'm myself as well. So yeah, and that that every time I do bodybuilding, it is just for me. It's my thing, and yeah, I think that's why I started it.
Were there any sort of misconceptions that you had about the sport going into it? Because this is the one sport that I think, the general public knows so little about it that, there's so many rumors and myths going on around there. Was there anything that you were concerned about before you got started, or were you one of those people who you just want to just dive right in and see what happens?
Dive right in and see what happens, really. But when I did start, it wasn't all over social media, so I didn't really know much about it. But yeah, I think my coach was a just like literally a PT at a gym. I didn't have like online coaches. Didn't even know what an online coach was. So, but yeah, I just wanted to see how it ended up, and yeah, it went pretty well. So kept going.
How has the sport evolved really since you got started? Because this is the one sport that every single year it almost completely changes, where it's just so ever evolving.
It's got massive now. There's so many more females that are doing it, which I think is absolutely amazing. There's so many more federations out there. You've got so much more choices, so much more support as well. And yeah, it's much more education about it now instead of people hiding under rocks and not saying much. So I think that's a good thing as well.
Yeah, it's not like back in the day where basically you had to like get a magazine basically if you wanted to figure out like, hey, this is how you get your workout in, this is your nutrition and stuff, which I think is really good. But the only problem with that is that now like everyone has an opinion about stuff, and some people are idiots. Let's be honest. I cannot, like, I think it's like one of our athletes over here, Aaron Rodgers, his girlfriend literally eats clay and then says it has benefits of doing that. And it's like, yeah, that's another reason why social media, it has its good and its bad. But hey, it's just like everything really, really else in life. But I love to talk genetics on this podcast because, I mean, everyone's on social media, like I said before. And, I hear this all the time. Oh my God, I want his arms. I want her abs. I want their back. I just kind of want to strangle them and be like, you do not understand that, you can work out just like these people and eat just like them, and you're not going to gain the same amount of muscle that they do just because everyone's built differently. But on top of that, whenever someone first gets started working out, they always have that one body part that really, really takes off that they don't have to train as much. And then they have that one body part that just lags behind. They have to train to oblivion to get it to catch up. For me, my back was the one thing that really took off for me, but I'm also 6'3", so my legs and my lower body are just absolutely shot, where I've always made the joke I could inject pure muscle into my legs and they wouldn't even gain an ounce. I mean, it's just never gonna happen. But so what was one body part for you that really took off when you got started, and then one body part that you just had to basically just drag along?
Um, I used to, well, when I first started, all I ever did was pretty much squat and deadlift. So I got my legs got quite big quite quickly and my back as well. But I've always suffered with my glutes. They are just like, they're very hard to grow. I think because my quads overtake everything. So yeah, that's one thing that I'm still working on, is just getting my glutes to wake the really.
See, I mean, I at least I appreciate it because she started off with like, oh yeah, my legs, and I was like, oh god, not one of these people again that has like their legs really take off. But then her glutes also struggle, so that just goes to show people how treacherous legs can be, where you can grow them. Like you can grow about half of them, and then the other half is still like, hey, no, I'm not doing this. This is why, yeah. I mean, the one thing that's shocked me most about legs is like we use them more than any other body part, and they for some reason just don't grow. I mean, I don't get it. It's like we don't walk on our arms, people, and for some reason some people's arms can get. I just, don't even get me started on that tangent, because we'll be talking here for 10 hours just about me, talking about how just impossible that is. But I mean, out of all the things that this lifestyle entails, the nutrition is by far the most important, and it's not talked about as much as it should be. But what were some of the biggest nutritional changes that you made when you really started to take this lifestyle seriously? Because that is the biggest shock for some people getting into this.
Well, when I first ever started lifting, I had that mind frame from looking online that carbs are bad, which now is completely opposite from now. But my first ever prep was with the PT at the gym. It was literally an old school bodybuilding, sugar's bad. You can't have sugar. You're just going to have rice and chicken with no seasoning, no pepper because you're not allowed pepper because it's the same as sugar. No chocolate, nothing like that. And now, obviously, I do, when I'm off season, I do, if it fits your macros. If I want a burger, I'm going to have a burger, and I know for fact that that's going to fuel me for my leg session the next day. So
Yep.
it's completely shift. I mean, no food is off really. No, there's no good or bad food.
And that's, I'm glad that you found that, because I still have some guests that seems like they're sort of living in the Stone Age, where they're still sort of in that, like if I even look at chocolate or anything like that, like I'm gonna burn in hell basically. So, I'm glad at least that you were able to figure that one out. But I mean, we talked about this briefly before we started recording. It's the number one myth that I love to bust on this podcast, and I mean, it's gotten better the last 5 years due to Instagram. But there's still, unfortunately, so many women that have that fear that if they even walk into a gym and look at a 1 pound dumbbell, they're just afraid that they're gonna put on 50 pounds of muscle overnight. And I always tell them, I have my entire life savings in a bank. I will have you train me once and pay you that entire sum if I get the results that you got. Did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And even if you didn't, I mean, I bet you still hear that all the time, even today. How do you like to respond to that?
I Wow. When I first wanted to obviously change my shape after my second child, it was actually my ex that said, "Why don't you start lifting?" And I was like, "Well, isn't that a kind of male thing?" Because I didn't have a clue. I didn't even set a foot in a gym back then. I thought, why would you go to a gym when you can walk outside? Like, lifting weights didn't even occur to me. And then as soon as I lifted, obviously, I was like, okay, it's going to take longer than 2 days. But I still do get clients that actually send me photos of people on Instagram. I want to look like this. I want to look like that. But their body composition is completely different. The way they train is completely different. Their genetics are completely different. Everyone is different in their so what they train might not work for them. How they eat might not work for them, and that's something that people need to realize as well. And it just takes. I mean, I'm still trying to grow some muscle that I need or that I want. And it's been how many years has it been? 8 years. So yeah, I'm still lifting. Just to get
I mean, I'm still searching for that great white buffalo that's like that one person that looks at the weights and then gains, 50 pounds, because that's the whole goal of this entire podcast. That's really the secret to why I started this, because I'm looking for that person just so that I can just hang out with them for the rest of my life and just be like, okay, I found my golden ticket, basically, and I'm set for life. So the search continues. We didn't find her this time, everyone, but hey, again, that is, yeah, I mean, it is just, I laugh every time I hear that word. It's just like, first of all, I wish I had that type of self-confidence in myself, that like I thought that I would just all of a sudden just get those type of results. But again, yeah, that is just one thing that I love to bust on this podcast every single time, because unfortunately there are still some of those little holdouts that exist out there that are just like, I hear this one all the time too, especially from the guests I have on. Oh, you look so great, but I would never want to look like that. And it's like, okay, well, you won't then. And again, if you do, you'll be my trainer. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. But I mean, this sport is so much more of a mental game than it is a physical game, and most people do not understand that, because they'll just notice like the physical changes in you. What has this journey been like for you mentally? Because that is one thing that it's 100 times more important than the physical changes that have occurred, at least in my opinion.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's brought me a lot more confidence than I've ever had. I'm like a completely different person than I was 7 years ago. Like now I can I walk down the street and some women don't actually do this in a tank top with my arms out. People are looking at me. I don't care. And a lot of girls actually hide. They hide themselves. And I don't understand why. You've worked so hard for that muscle. You shouldn't care what people
Oh,
think.
I thought you meant they hide from you, like walking down the street. They're like, a lot of girls are just like, no, get out of my way. I'm gonna hide behind this trash can or something.
I don't know, they might do. I can't see them, so I could be right. But, yeah, I'm kind of I've got this mind frame now that I don't care what people think of me, and I think that is a great place to be in your life, because then you can do whatever you want that makes you happy, not being scared of how other people are gonna feel about it or think about it. So, yeah, that's one thing that's come across from all of it. It's just confidence mostly.
I'm sorry, I'm just still picturing everyone being like, "Oh crap, Lozzie's on the way" or whatever like that, and then everyone's just like getting into hiding spots and stuff like that. Yeah, we get just let her pass, let her pass. Don't let her know that you see her and stuff. But no, yeah, that is and that's a great attitude to have, because so many people don't understand that in addition to the look that you're gonna have, you're gonna draw a lot more people's attention, and you sort of become like a mini celebrity, as I've said before. So it's great to sort of have that attitude where it's like, yeah, you don't care, because it's hard for a lot of people to sort of deal with the extra added attention that you might get. But it's just, yeah, it's just a part of the lifestyle. And I mean, what were your friends and family's reaction like when you announced them, like, hey, I want to give bodybuilding a try?
Ooh, well. My mum is extremely supportive. She's come to nearly all of my shows. My dad, not so much. He doesn't really understand it. But my brother, supportive. Yeah, my mum's side of the family, like my brother, my sister, my mum, have all come to my shows. The other side, not so much. They don't really understand it.
This just must be kind of like a UK thing, because like for the UK, it's usually the dads, yeah, that don't get it at all, but the moms. But like in the US, it's like the exact opposite, where it's usually like sometimes both of the parents kind of get it. But the UK, there must be something with the UK dads where they're just like, what's going on here? So I don't know, but I mean, I've had like 20 guests from the UK on, and I'd say at least 75% of them have had the same answer that you've had, where it's like, I don't know. That might have to be like a little study that needs to be published or something like that. But yeah, that's again, and I mean, it's so great to at least have any level of support, because I found that with this lifestyle especially, just any shred of support really makes this so much easier than it really is. And I've had guests on that have no support at all, and it just makes it harder than it ever needs to be. So I mean, at least you have that. But I mean, the number one thing that I would have never guessed in a million years is the hardest thing for so many of these guests that I have on is posing. Would have never guessed it in a million years. It's harder than your nutrition. It's harder than your training for a lot of people. What has your experience with posing been like?
Oh, shocking. It is the most hardest thing to do out of bodybuilding is posing. Your nutrition, absolutely fine. Training, absolutely fine. Posing, I am like a stick walking. I have no flow. I have no sass. I'm more like a tomboy. Me and heels don't really go. So that's one thing that I have to work on over and over again. But and I think even the pros, they still struggle with posing. They get posing lessons. So it's just something that you just got to keep going, really. Got to keep working on. Especially you. We've got to see your posing, haven't we?
Oh my god. No, you don't. No, because I would never do anything that shows my legs at all. Because that, first of all, I mean, that's just, yeah, I would literally just be wearing sweats the whole time and just be like, yep, no one's ever seen my legs. Upper body is fine. My back is the one thing that takes off. I might just be just doing back poses the entire time, just doing lat spreads and, just like, just that might be the only thing that I'm doing, because yeah, that's just ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, I wish maybe one of these days, if I reach a certain amount of people watching and stuff like that, then I'll start to do a pose thing as like a little celebration thing. But I'm not at that point yet. But out of the poses that you do, what is your favorite pose and what is your least favorite pose?
Um, Power pose is probably my favorite pose. Least favorite is probably the mandatory poses, especially the side pose. It's very, very hard. Even though it looks easy, it's actually very hard, and it's not flattering.
Well, and just like with a lot of things posing that most people understand, you are flexing everything. You're not just flexing the area that, like, if someone's like doing a front double bi, you're not just flexing your biceps, you're flexing your abs, you're flexing your legs. I mean, it's, again, just things that most people just do not understand at all. But when you're on stage, does time really seem to slow down, or does it seem to sort of speed up, or is it sort of a mixture? Because I have some people who talk about how it seems like it's like an hour on there, and then I have other people who's like, yeah, it's literally 10 seconds.
It goes very, very quickly, very quickly. So yes, you try and walk slow on the stage, but you think you're walking slow, but actually you're walking very, very fast. So you need to remember that. But yeah, it goes extremely fast. Like all that time that you've prepared just for that 10 seconds or 1 minute on stage goes like that. So yeah.
I mean, when you are walking on that stage, what is that feeling like for you? Because, I mean, let's be honest, you've gone through a prep, which no one's ever had a good prep. And I mean, let's be honest. And if everyone's like, yeah, I had a good job through, it's like, no, you hated it. Like, if you didn't hate a prep, I would question your sanity, first of all. And I'd be like, okay, it's crazy enough that you're doing this sport. It's also crazy that, like, if you're like one of those people who's like, oh my God, I love my prep. I love doing everything that I have to do in a prep. So what is that moment like for you when you finally get to walk up on that stage and just sort of just be like, hey, I've worked my butt off for this, and I can really just finally just show it off and just be done with it now, sort of.
You just get like the feeling like other really. It's like complete butterflies you get in your tummy. You obviously you get the nerves as well. It's very hard to explain how you're feeling. 'Cause you get excited and you're nervous at the same time. Like you're trying to smile, but like your teeth are chattering because you're so bloody nervous. Everyone is staring at you. But it's a fantastic feeling. So yeah, you're like, I finally got through this prep. I'm on here now. This is my time.
That's one thing that most people don't understand too, is that your jaw muscle is going to be one of the most sore things after that show from smiling all the time. I mean, people do not get that, where they're like, oh, I imagine that the rest of the body. It's like, no, you try smiling, for however long, most of these guests that I have on Smile on a show. I mean, it is not the easiest thing out of there. But I mean, you're the PCA world champ. I have never heard of the PCA before. So what does that stand for? And what was that like when they announced your name and you realized, wow, I'm the world champ?
Physical association. Yeah, it's yeah. Um, it was a feeling like no other. I did not expect it whatsoever. I nearly peed myself, but
That would have
it
been a
was
sight to see on stage.
yeah, with the tan line down the leg, it
Yeah.
would be great. No, but it was crazy. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, it still lives with me. Like you get that feeling still, and it's great.
So what was that like, sort of like after the show, just sort of realizing that? And is it hard for you to now sort of be like, okay, I need to even improve on this in order to maybe repeat? Because that's the one thing with the champions that I've always found so fascinating, is like, if you win the Olympia, the person that's afterwards is like, oh, there's a lot that I still got to improve on. It's like, well, you won. What do you need to improve on? Really, stuff like, I've always found that funny, where it's like with bodybuilding and with a lot of sports. Now, if it's baseball, I totally understand, but like with bodybuilding, it's like, oh, I need to improve on every other thing. So I was like, well, if you show up with the same exact package, you're probably going to win again. So it's just, I've always found that fascinating. So how do you deal with that?
Well, if you have the same package and you show up again, there might be someone else next to you who've actually got a better package than you now. So you've actually always got to work on yourself. With PCA, as I've got world champion, to me, I feel like I finished with PCA now. I've done PCA, like just like with you, a federation called UK Up. I got pro card with them. I've finished with them now. So now I'm on the deep end of getting to IFBB, which is the biggest federation, because they've just got links to everything and it's massive. But their figure of the other federations is much bigger and leaner and it's harder. So yeah, it's like every federation you can look, you have to have a different look. So yeah.
Is the PCA posing different from like the IF or the IFBB posing? Because I found, especially like the UK does a lot different posing than the States does. Australia does even a little bit different posing itself. So is there like a posing jump that you have to make when you make the move?
PCA is so much better with posing. You can do double bicep, lat spread, and you get 1 minute like routine as well. So which I always hated, but it's because I'm not, yeah, 1 minute on stage dancing to music is not really me. And with IFBB, arms down, it's just like the mandatory poses, and that's it. So it's not as fun as PCA, but
That's one thing. In the moment you said like front double bicep for figure, I was like, oh, that's not, and that's one thing I like about the UK is that they have included a lot more stuff for figure, because it's like I've always found it to be so limiting that if you have a guest on that maybe is not like a physique competitor or a bodybuilder competitor, then what, they can't do some of the bodybuilding poses. Okay, we got a cat alert, everyone. That's all. What's your cat's name?
it's Kuro.
Kuro. That's awesome. Oh my god. Yeah, that is ridiculous, and I mean, I love animal interruptions on this podcast. It's absolutely the best, and again, my favorite bodybuilding memory on this podcast actually involves a cat, where it was a guy bodybuilder that I had on, where he had a stack of trophies behind him, and the cat jumped up onto the shelf and started kicking off the trophies while we were talking, and I told him, "Yeah, that's staying in. I don't care what you say, because that is like the greatest thing that I've ever seen in my entire life." So yeah, that is awesome, and yeah, I mean, that is so. So how do you deal with also, you know, bodybuilding is such a restrictive lifestyle in and of itself, but I mean, like you said, you're also a mom. Your time management skills must be insane. Are there any tricks that you have as to how like you don't completely go insane with all the time management that you must have?
Um, you just have to, if you want something like, then you've got to make it work. I know it's so cliche, but it's so true. It's like while the kids are at school, that's when I train, that's when I work. And with new nutrition, obviously they got chocolate and crisps in the cupboard and yogurts in the fridge. I don't snack on it. I stick to my own food, and that's their food. But yeah, if you want something bad enough, then you would make it work, really.
Yeah. And I mean, how do you deal with like that mental side effect of like seeing other people getting to eat food while you can't? Because that for me would be the one thing that would drive me crazy more than anything else.
That's actually very easy. I don't mind that at all. It doesn't affect me. I actually buy them takeaways while I'm on prep, just so I can watch them eat it because I wish I was eating it.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, and you got something to look forward to and sort of go into, but yeah, that food thing, that would drive me absolutely bonkers. But I mean, yeah, it's just this whole lifestyle is just, it's just so fascinating. And what would you say is probably the biggest thing that you get from people who just don't understand the lifestyle? Like what's one thing that they always talk to you about, or like that they think is true that isn't, because there's just so much out there that people believe about the sport of bodybuilding. And then when you add female bodybuilding to that, it's times 10.
I've never had many people say stuff to my face, but I've had it behind my back. Probably because they're quite, like you said, they hide from me. But I've been told that I'm an embarrassment to look at. They find it hard to look at me. I got said that I got bigger arms than a man now, or I look like a man. But it's just stuff like that. It doesn't really affect me because that's their opinion, and everyone is allowed an opinion, and that's absolutely fine. It doesn't affect me because I won't let it affect me.
Can I just say, British insults are the best insults. You're an embarrassment to look at is going to be something that I'm going to have to use like later on in life for someone. Like that just cuts to the core right there. You're an embarrassment to look at. That is just, oh my god. You see, the British are on a different level when it comes to their insults, where it's just, yeah,
Oh, give me an insult on your end then.
you're an embarrassment to look at is just still like, just still in my, well, I was like, God, that is harsh. Like, God, I can't even think of one right now. Really, it's not. Yeah, that one is just that one sort of took my breath away a little bit like that. Where like if I ever heard anyone to tell me like that, I'd be like, wow, okay, I'm gonna go, buy a bullet and rent a gun, basically. Then now after, geez, I mean, good God, God, you're an yeah, that's. Hey, you got me with that one. Maybe if I calm down a little bit, I'll tell you one later on the podcast. But yeah, that one is. Hey, that's a good one. I'm writing that down right now just to make sure that I don't forget that one ever. But yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, you are gonna get idiot people like that too. Unfortunately, there's idiots all over this planet, and they'll say whatever they want to say. Unfortunately, but I mean, I hate cardio more than life itself.
Same.
Absolutely hate it. I can, walk for as long as I want, but the running is just no thank you. Unfortunately, when you do become a bodybuilder, though, you sort of sign a deal with the devil when it comes to cardio. What is your relationship with cardio like?
I bloody hate cardio. On my last prep, I had to do 60 minutes a day on the Stairmaster. Yeah, every day, an hour, just watching YouTube with people eating food challenges.
What is up with that? I don't get why most people that do bodybuilding, they're obsessed with the Food Network. They're obsessed with like eating stuff, and it's like that is just torture. I would never watch that if I was doing that because first of all, like I would start drooling and stuff. Yeah, I just don't understand that mentality at all.
Neither do I. Don't ask me because I don't understand it either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least you don't like cardio too as well. But now, since we are getting sort of close to the holidays, do you sort of allow yourself an allowance? I mean, obviously, like your food is not super restrictive, like you said. You do, if it fits your macros, where you can eat, you can eat what you want as long as it's in the proportions. But as like Christmas is coming around, do you allow yourself to sort of not necessarily pig out, but like enjoy yourself?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I even tell my clients that they are not allowed to open my fitness pal or track on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and Boxing Day. Absolutely, we're humans. We're not robots, and we're making memories with families. And when if you're going to sit there and not enjoy yourself, you're going to remember that you didn't enjoy yourself and what you missed out on. I mean, it's bodybuilding, but again, it's not who you are. Your family is.
I wish people could repeat that, and it's not who you are because some people fall into that trap where they just let that identify their entire existence. Where it's like, well, then at the end of the day, what are you then if you're just going by like I am a bodybuilder and that's the only thing that you really feel represents you. So I'm glad that you said that at least. And again, another thing the UK does, we don't even have Boxing Day in the States here, so we don't even. I mean, Canada has it. We don't have it. Yeah, we don't even do it. Yeah.
Make it.
We
You got
have
to make it.
Kwanzaa on the
What
day
is
after the.
that?
It's an African American sort of holiday it was like it was invented like in like the 50s by someone who wanted to like have it's a whole thing, but yeah, that's their whole thing. I mean, I don't celebrate, and rarely anyone celebrates it, but that's what they. But yeah, we don't never heard of Boxing Day until I had guests from Canada on like 3 years ago, and I was like, what is that? And they're like, oh, you've never heard of Boxing Day? And then they forget because we kind of got out of the British Empire, a little bit before most of the other people did. So we kind of we didn't take Boxing Day with us really as a tradition. So there's that, unfortunately. But that it goes with it, I guess. But I mean, sleep is another thing that is just so important in this lifestyle, and you know, being a mom, you're not going to get enough sleep anyway. Being a bodybuilder, you're not going to get enough sleep anyway. How are you even able to deal with probably having a lower sleep schedule than most people just because of all the stuff that you have to do in your life and having to train? Because I mean, if you were like not bodybuilding at all, it would be probably a little bit easier to deal with like not as much sleep. But when you're a bodybuilder, I mean, sleep is your number one friend. How are you able to sort of cope through that? Because that's the one thing for me too. It's like if I get a certain amount of sleep, I am not going to work out. Or if I get like only like a couple hours of sleep, not going to work out. I just can't. Like I'll try, I just can't do it. But how do you cope with having a somewhat different sleep schedule probably than most other people?
Well, when I'm getting ready for competition, obviously sleep becomes a massive issue because your body just doesn't want to sleep because it's hungry all the time. Um, and normally I usually wake up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm awake for like the rest of the day. And while the kids are at school, I have like an hour cat nap, and that's how I got through it. Oh, yeah. Just like an hour cat nap.
As you can tell by me being sort of a hyper person, I can never take naps. A nap for me is literally just closing my eyes and then just yeah, just being there for like half an hour with my eyes closed, not falling asleep, but sort of just relaxing. So
Yeah,
unfortunately,
that's what
yeah,
I do. Yeah.
yeah,
I can't actually fall asleep, but you're aware of everything around you,
yeah,
your eyes closed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is weird because it does work at times for me where it's like, yeah, you do feel a little bit more well rested and stuff, but and plus I hate taking naps anyways because you always wake up the most confused state that you'll ever wake up in your entire life where you're like, what time is it? Like, did it, like, is it nighttime? Is it daytime or whatever? I've never, it's like almost amnesia where you're just like, what's going on? And stuff like, even if you only nap for like an hour, you wake up and you're like, did I sleep through the entire day and stuff like that? And you look at the clock, it's like, oh, it's only been like an hour and stuff like that. On the handful of occasions that I've actually been able to take a nap, that has been, the end result really is just where you're just like, wow, it just seems like I've sort of time traveled a little bit, but it's, yeah. So naps, again, aren't really the best thing, for me. But when it comes to this lifestyle too, as well, I mean, your clothing options can be severely limited. They don't make clothes for female bodybuilders, especially in the UK. Is there anything that you like to do to sort of like balance that out where it's like, and also you're going to need two wardrobes, your off season wardrobe and your in season wardrobe. Anything that you try to do to sort of help minimize the stress that probably goes along with that?
Oh yeah, I buy oversized clothes. Because when you're in prep, you like to be cozy, even though you're leaner. But then the clothes still fit you when you're off season, when you put on weight. So yeah, mostly I buy men's clothes that are oversized because it's more comfortable. Women's clothes, they make it too tight, and it's just not comfortable unless you're going out for like a drink, which I rarely, rarely do. And when I do, I just want to get home and get in my pajamas again. So yeah, oversized for the win.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's another myth that I really love to bust in this podcast too is that so many people just don't understand that look that you present on stage is not sustainable 24/7. I mean, I think it's a lot of it's because, a lot of people like save their competition photos and they post them throughout the year as they rightfully should, where then people just believe like, oh, they would just work so hard to look like that. They should be able to, look like that 24/7 where it's like, no, you're not. What has your experience been with like the post show blues? And has it gotten easier for you as your career has gone on to sort of realize the fact of like, hey, I'm not going to be able to maintain this look and I am going to have to put on some size afterwards?
Um, Whoever says it gets easier are bloody lying, because every prep is it's different because it affects your body differently. Um, but now I've done it for a good few times. I know what to expect, but it doesn't mean it gets easier. Like you obviously put on weight, but the worst thing to me is the hunger that you get. You're just constantly hungry, and you can't fill it. Even if I ate everything in the house, I'll still be hungry. So it's very hard. Then when one day you wake up and you don't have this feeling anymore because it's manic. Because being a female, your hormones are like this, absolutely everywhere. So you've got to wait until they level out again, and it's taken bloody ages. It does. I sounded so English then, didn't I?
Hey, I love it. Okay, you kidding me? This is coming from a guy that just speaks. This is in the center of the U.S. Where, first of all, my favorite British guest I ever had on was I had before I started doing bodybuilders. I just had some professors on and just talked about some stuff. I had the number one sleep professor on the plant on. He came from Oxford. First of all, he had that British accent where you felt like you gained 10 IQ points just from talking to him. Where you're just like, oh my god, this is the smartest sounding person I've ever had on. So. Yeah, that is for sure my favorite. But as someone that's had experience in this area as well, would you sort of compare, your off season or your post show blues is sort of like giving birth where it's like you know what to expect the second time, but it still sucks and it's still just as hard.
That's a good way of
Yeah.
putting that,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah,
See, I came up
yeah.
with that myself when she was talking. I was like, hey, that might be a good analogy. So, yeah, for anyone out there who's like doubting it, and I have had some guests on where it's like, yeah, it gets easier as it goes on. I was like, really? It gets easier to even accept that fact? As you get better and better at your look, it gets easier to accept losing it. So, yeah, that's one thing that I've almost wanted to call people out on, but I was like, no. Just because it's just, I just let people sort of just riff on here and just, I don't want to try to correct anyone, but in this lifestyle, I mean, going to the gym every day and just doing everything, you sort of develop a camaraderie with people in the gym, or especially people that compete as well. How important is that relationship to you? Because I've found that is, a special thing, especially in this sport where you have people that generally care about each other in the sport. And it just seems to be such a huge help for so many people. But what is that like for you, just knowing that, yeah, like people do have your back in this sport and it's just such a tight knit community?
I think it's absolutely amazing. I mean, obviously, the first year that I competed, I didn't know anybody, and it was very, very lonely. But as the years have gone by, obviously, I've made loads of really good friends through obviously Instagram. And obviously I've met some of them as well. We've competed against each other, and if I know that they've got my back and I've got their back, and I think it's a really tight community. But obviously you still get them people who pretend to have your back. So you do still need to be careful, but yeah, just make sure that you're there for each other and support each other and not be a bitch, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, as long as you just don't tell anyone that you're on the stage with that you're an embarrassment to look at out there. Because I mean, I'm sorry, that's the one thing that I'm taking from this podcast. I don't care what anyone's. That's the one thing. That's the greatest insult I've ever heard in my entire life. Where it's just if I ever get really angry at one person, I might just have to. That's gonna be like me using like the C word on a woman or just using like the F word on someone. That's gonna be my thing. Is like you're an embarrassment to look at. Where that's just gonna be That's gonna be yeah. That's the end game for me, really, where it's just like, yeah, that's God, that is perfect. But I'm gonna try to get that out of my head for the rest of the podcast that we have here. But I mean, what's one thing of advice that you would like to, give someone who comes up to you and just like, hey, I want to try to get in shape and try to just adapt a healthy and fitness lifestyle myself because unfortunately, like we talked about, everyone's genetics are different. So there's not gonna be one plan that really just works for everyone. But just in general, what is one thing that you would just give as a piece of advice to someone who's just looking to try to get in shape and just start on a healthy and fit journey?
Well, the one thing that I like to say is keep going, because too many people start and then they give up because they haven't got to where they are in, let's say, a week. The one thing you need to be is consistent. You need to keep going. You need to keep nailing your nutrition, your training, and your sleep as well. So, yeah, that is one thing. It's what I say quite a lot actually, is just keep going. Yeah. And don't compare yourself to other people.
Yeah, I'm not Ronnie Coleman. I don't know how many times I have to tell myself that in the mirror. It's just like, Ryan, you're not Yeah. Yeah, and that's again, it's so hard in this day and age with social media to like not compare yourself with others. And that's one of the things where like people talk about all the positives of social media. If I was a competitor, I would hate it because like what the other people are gonna look like going into a show. So then you're like, oh my god, that to me would just be like, oh my god, his arms look like it's gotten a little bit bigger. His back looks like it's gotten a little bit wider this time. So it's like I don't think I've gotten that much bigger. But again, a thing that I also love about this though too, like it's like it's ups and downs. So many of these people like make themselves look bigger on their Instagram pages than they actually are, especially height wise. Because like me being 6'3", I'm taller than every guest that I've had on this podcast. I've had a guest that's 6'2" on, and that's different. But like if I ever went to one of these shows or stuff like that, I could bounce some of these people like basketballs, really, basically, just because they're so much shorter than me. So it's just like with acting too. Or like I hate to spoil it for everyone, but Tom Cruise is like 5'5", and that's on a good day. So it's like people just don't understand that like how especially so there's the good and the bad that I mean comes with that. But if someone were to also walk up to you and say, Lozzie, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Oh gosh. Oh no. There is one thing that I'd like to change, but I don't know how to explain it. It's how federations like to favour competitors. They have their favourite competitors and they'll sponsor them. They'll get them up to like a pro level just because they're working with a specific coach that they like. That's what I want to stop. I want that to stop because it's just not fair.
I have seen that too, and it becomes political like a lot of other things in sports that yeah, they do have their favorites, and sometimes it might be maybe someone that has the most Instagram following or whatever. They're like, oh, we don't want to give her not because she has like 500,000 followers. We don't want to like not award her because then she'll say bad things. Again, yeah, that's one thing that's gotten along with it too, where it's yeah, I unfortunately that's human nature, and that goes with a lot. I mean, trust me, being a baseball pitcher and dealing with some of these umpires growing up, I understand all about human error and stuff like that. You get one bad umpire, and then you're just like, oh my god, this is just ridiculous. But yeah, that too for me too would be like the prize money too, because it's like this is not a sport that you're going to make money in. I mean, so many people, I think some people have that belief where they're like, oh, I'm going to get really jacked and I'm going to win like all this money and stuff like that. It's like, good luck. I mean, if you can live off of like $10,000 a year, go for it then. Cause that's about, and you're going to end up spending more money than you actually make. If you really do all the account, especially for women, the, bikini costs, the tan cost, the hair cost, the makeup cost. I mean, Yeah, I say that, like, I wish I could have came up with like a Ponzi scheme like this, because like you're paying people to really compete in a sport where then you're gonna, I mean, it's not a Ponzi scheme obviously, but like if I could come up with a sport where people end up paying me, then I have to pay them, then really that's the ultimate idea right there. So I mean, I'm trying to think of a sport like that, but I haven't came up with anything as brilliant yet. But again, that just adds even more the dedication, where I always think about it. You're on stage for basically like a minute at the most, and you train that hard and long, you end up spending more money than you make. That's another thing. It's like that just adds a special person that does this and is able to willing to go through all of that, which just makes me gain even more respect for bodybuilders. Because like, yeah, you can be a pro, football player, and it's not as impressive. You make millions of dollars and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's not as impressive as someone who like actually throws in all that, hard work and dedication as well. But out of your entire career so far, what has been your favorite moment being a bodybuilder? Probably winning your world champ, but we'll throw that out the window then. Other than that, because that's the obvious one. What has been another moment for you that's like really stood out for you and is really probably your other favorite moment?
I can't say world champion, can I?
I already said, because like that, obviously that's gonna be the one. Like as soon as I was asking that question, I was like, okay, that's gonna be world champion. So I'm gonna have to ixnay that. So yeah, it's gonna, other than being world champion, you can say maybe like the day after being a world champion was your favorite.
I don't know why I haven't said this, but winning my class at the Arnold's.
Oh, yep.
So I think that was yeah, that was amazing. So
did you get to meet Arnold?
Oh, he bailed out on the day before. He's with a broken leg.
Call him out on Instagram and be like, wimp, something like that. tell him that he's an embarrassment to look at now. Oh my God. No, but that is awesome. And I mean, yeah, and I ask this to every single guest too. And I mean, you're going to come on because you're such a delight to talk to again a year from now. Where would you like to be at a year from now when it comes to just your journey, your health and fitness journey, and just your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved when we have you on a year from now?
I would I'm taking a whole year off, so I'm not competing again until 2023. So, because I need to grow and have some fun as well. I would like to have my IFBB Pro card. That is one goal. And second goal, don't know. I think that is that's the only bodybuilding one that I've got at the moment. But I would like to have worked towards actually going away on holiday and taking my kids on holiday. Because being a bodybuilder, you put all your money in that and your time in that. And I would like to do that for my family and take them away.
Well, I couldn't think of a better way to end this podcast and to really piss everyone off. So in the UK, you guys have way more vacation time than we have here. How many vacation days do you get?
I don't actually know.
I get 2 weeks.
I don't bloody know.
I get 2 weeks.
2 weeks in a year?
In a year.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not enough.
Oh my God. No, yeah. It's not. I have guests on from like France and Germany who are like, oh yeah, we get like 8 weeks and stuff like that. And it's like, what? Now, again, I'm not like a school teacher where, I mean, I hate school teachers because they get 3 months off during the year. And it's just like, okay, yeah, that's not, no. And then they're like, oh yeah, we don't make as much. And it's like, well, yeah, if I had 3 months off too, I would gladly take like 75% of my annual salary then for 3 months off. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the one thing that we need to do different here, among about 10 million other things that we need to do different here in the U.S. But yeah, the vacation time is just naps. Do you have any destination in mind that you'd like to go on vacation with your kids?
I haven't got a clue. They just said anywhere with a swimming pool. So, but
literally dig a hole in your backyard and put some water in there.
yeah, do that. Put some fake palm trees up. There you go, sorted. No, but I would also like to compete abroad as well in 2023. So I think that's also a goal.
Have you ever wanted to come to the States and do a show here?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But do you know how hard it is to get to the States at the moment?
Yep. Well, even how hard it is to get to the UK at the moment too. Yeah, it's almost, you picked the right time to take a year off, because who knows, you might be able to, a year from now. But don't come to Minnesota if you come here, because you will not like the weather. So I mean, if you're gonna come here, come between the months of June and August. That's about the only time where it's hospitable here. In September too as well. But other than that, yeah, it is not for the faint of heart. I've always wanted to go to Norway because I have a lot of Norwegian blood in me, so that's going to be my vacation spot. If I can ever get there and stuff. We have a family. We have a village where my family's lived for like the last 1,000 years, so I've always wanted to go and visit that. But yeah, that's awesome. And again, you guys, everyone go and give Lozzie a follow, and just make sure to be buyer beware that you will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating all those Twinkies and get in shape. And yeah, again, and Lozzie, is there anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap things up?
No, just I don't understand why you would want to come to the UK because it's shit here.
Yeah, it's well, at least the beer's better.
Oh yeah, the beer is good here.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie about that.
Yeah.
But I want Twinkies though. I'll take Twinkies over beer.
Okay, so before we wrap this up, here's a story. So the Minnesota State Fair is the biggest state fair in the country, even though we only have a population of about 5 million, which is like 1/6 the size of California. There's a food there. It's a deep fried Twinkie. They deep fry the Twinkie, then they put a layer of chocolate on top of it, and then a layer of caramel on top of the chocolate.
Mate, I've got to come.
It's the greatest. It's the greatest thing. It's the greatest thing you'll ever have.
Send me one.
Oh my god! Well, next year I will because it takes place during the summer. But yeah, it is. It is absolutely. And then they have like sculptures made out of cheese and stuff like that. And then it's like, yep, they got a lot of corn. They have like deep fried corn, which is something I never thought I'd ever. I mean, everything. So many things are deep fried there. Like we're a huge fishing state too because we have like 10,000 lakes. That's why Minnesota is called the land of 10,000 lakes, where there's literally 10,000 lakes in the state. There's actually like 19,000, but for some reason they said land of 10,000 because I don't get why it's like just say 19,000. But literally we have like deep fried walleye and deep fried like other fish and stuff. Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, we go all out during our state fair, and they have like corn dogs that are literally like a foot and a half long that are just, yeah, it's insane. I'll definitely have to either I'll send something to some people because you are missing out with the deep fried Twinkies. That is something that
Okay, definitely.
absolutely will. Again, you guys, everyone go and give her a follow. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.